Hi, it's Lee here. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining me for the second last Dephemerember. Today is the 27th of December and we're up to prompt 15, and that prompt is spaghetti box window. So you can see I've got my spaghetti box here and I'm making my window bigger. I cut out my window and then I fiddle around for quite some time before I decide how I'm going to go about making something with this spaghetti box. So I'll just fast forward straight to what I've come up with. So after lots of folding this way and that way and cutting the wrong bit off and all sorts of things like that, I finally came up with this design where I wanted to have that lady in the window, and then that card here, which is a Christmas postcard that Di sent to me, so it's a vintage one, that's going to be hinged and that will fold over, and that other piece will fold down. But in the end I flip it the other way, so the bit that goes down actually flips up in the end. And I got this idea from Francesca from Junk Journal Joy. She's got a video called Scrappy Windows, so I'll link that in my video description, but that's where I got the idea of this window from. So I like the idea and I've made a couple. So I've made one to go over these birds. So I've got this one going here. What you do is make a frame with strips of paper, get a little bit strong, and then distress it by folding it and tearing it and inking it, etc. So I'll do that, get that one ready. So I end up making it about 3 or 4 layers thick, so it's 4 in some places and 3 in others. Once I get my window all distressed and shabby looking the way I want it, I give it a quick wipe over with walnut stain and put it to the side. And now I'm going to cover the actual flip up window bit of the spaghetti box with some paper napkin. And I'm using a PVA glue that I've watered down just a little bit with some water, and I'll cover this on both sides. I've got this piece of cardboard that's going to be my base. It has been cut from a shoebox, so it's quite sturdy. I'm giving it a light scraping with some white gesso. And what I'll also add is a couple of distress inks, so it will be weathered wood and evergreen bough that I just put around the outside. While that gesso is still wet, I'm going to take one of those little rubber stamps. This is a set that I got from the toy shop. It's a kid's set, and this one has scallops on it, or like fish scale pattern. So I press that into the wet gesso, and that creates a little bit of interest when the ink goes on. So weathered wood is the first ink that I put onto the card. And then I'm going to add just a touch of the evergreen bough. It was a little bit darker than I thought it was going to be, so I watered it down with a wet paintbrush. And you can see where the ink is sitting in the little indents that that rubber stamp made. It looks quite nice, I think. I've trimmed down the image of the lady who's going in the window, so I'm going to put her in there, like so. And the next thing I want to do is put the postcard on, so I'm going to hinge it so it opens outwards. So I'll glue it to start with, and then I will stitch it with the sewing machine. Now I've decided that I don't really like the colour of that paper napkin over the top of the black box, so I've got some white gesso, and I'm just going to fade that out a fair bit actually. So I'll paint that out and then add some texture paste, so it's sand. It's a texture sand, I think is what it's called. I've got that little image up in the just to the right there. So once I get it all dry, sand texture medium it's called, yeah, I'll pop the little boy in there. So just putting a little bit of that all the way around, and then I'll dry it off with the heat gun and glue the little fella on there. And that's all dry now, and I love the way it feels, and I like the way it looks as well. So now I've decided that I want to add a little bit of gesso onto this part of the frame or the window. A little bit up on the top bit. So we'll add another image up there a little bit later on. So I've got my Distress mica sprays, and the one that I'm using here is called Decayed, and it is like a grey greeny colour. So I want to add a little bit of that on there, and also just a little splash of fortune teller, which is so potent. Really only need the tiniest little bit of this, but unfortunately it's very hard to spray out just a little tiny bit. So there's enough in those couple of squirts to pretty much add purple all over that surface. So that was all I needed to do there. Now I'm adding gold watercolour paint around the edge of everything. So I'm going to go around the postcard, around the window and the flap, and then do the other side as well. Yeah, now that postcard is really old. As I said, it's probably a vintage one, but it's almost like it's been embossed, and I don't know if you can see in the picture coming through on the camera the cracks in it. It's like shattered glass. I'll decide that I want to add just a little bit of something underneath the little boy. So I've got a piece of paper tape measure here, and I've inked that up with walnut stain, and I'll just pop that underneath the little boy before I glue him down. So I'm back with my raggedy window frame, and I've added some Stormy Sky Distress Oxide spray, and now some snow in the form of white gesso. Pop that to the side, and I'm also going to add some of that white gesso onto the postcard. and some white splatters onto the baseboard. And I'll also add a few gold splatters with acrylic ink that's been watered down a little bit. A little bit of gold on the scrappy window frame. Decided that I don't want that top, like that flap, to be blank, so I'm going to put this image of a lady or a young woman sitting on a barrel, and she's got something in her hand. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm going to give her some butterfly wings, so I'm just sort of working out how much of the wing would be seen with her sitting sort of side on as she is, and decide on what I've got here. Glue that down, and I also then went around her skirt and the wings with the black Stabilo pencil. Rightio, so it's time to put this window on the front of the postcard, but I thought it just needed a little bit of contrast, so I've got ground espresso distress oxide spray here, and I'm just using the actual tube from inside the bottle to apply a little bit of that to add some dark places on that window frame. Once I get that to my liking, I'll then staple the frame to the top of the postcard. I'm going to add a little bit of this book spine to the bottom of the little flip up, just so it's obvious that it's meant to be lifted up. So I'm just stapling that on. So I hope that if someone opens it, then they'll see that and they'll wonder what it is and pick it up and have a look. The next thing I want to do is glue this down. So I'm only gluing the top and the bottom, and my idea is that if I want to, I can keep things underneath this, like it's a bit of a belly band or a pocket sort of thing, but with no bottom in it. And so I just left it open, and it's time to put this in the book now. So I'm going through and I'm looking for somewhere to pop it in, and decide that this page on the left here is where it's going to live. So I'm going to use double-sided tape to attach this into the book, and then I'll just add the name of the prompt at the top of the page. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it's given you some inspiration and ideas of what to do for this prompt. I really enjoyed making this, although I'm running a bit late in case you hadn't noticed. We've had a really busy last couple of days with visitors over Christmas, so it's been really enjoyable, but I just put this project aside and concentrated my time on spending it with my family, and have had a wonderful time. So I hope you did too. Let me know in the comments what you think. Give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to my channel. And I shall see you tomorrow for Me and My Crush, which is the last of the Dephemerember projects. So hugs and cheers from Australia. Happy crafting. Hooroo!